I'm going to start out today by telling you two stories that are connected to two of my seminary professors. When I went to St. Charles in Philadelphia for college, I had a professor who taught philosophy and logic. His name was Father R. Rogers, and I always remember telling this story. He was helping at an Advent penance service one evening. A man came into the confessional and he said, "Father, I don't need to go to confession. I just a minute ago went to Monsignor across the way. But I had told him that I had been fighting with my wife, and he gave me the penance of saying 3 Hail Marys and to buy her a bouquet of flowers." And the father, my seminary professor, said, "Well," I said, "what's the problem?" He said, "Father, my wife and I, we own the flower shop in town. Believe me, flowers from me is not going to help the situation at all. So Father said, just do the 3 Hail Marys, you know." When I was at Mount St. Mary's down in Emmitsburg and I was a deacon, we used to have classes, they were called practicums. And that means that the deacons would have a class where you would practice celebrating Mass, or practice anointing the sick, or practice hearing confessions. Well, the priest who taught me how to hear confessions was this old priest from the Bronx. And he had been a priest for 50-some years and just was very practical and very wise. And what he would do in this practicum is he would come and kneel down by us guys, the deacons, and he would pretend he was a penitent, and he would make up sins, and then he would see how we would advise them or what we would say. Well, I remember my day came, and he kneels next to me, and he says, "Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I'm a religious sister who has been consecrated life for 30 years, and I took $5 and I bought things for myself at the drugstore, and I broke my vow of poverty." And I said, "Oh, sister, that $5, that's not a big deal. You know what I mean? You didn't break a vow of poverty." And I remember Father Kennedy said to me, he said, "Al, you're not going to take a vow of poverty as a priest. And so you can't tell some sister whose life you don't know at all whether she has broken her vow of poverty. And so you have to very much understand who you're talking to and what their state in life is." And you know, I learned great lesson for that from those two priests. Because, you know, when you're giving advice or correction to someone, or you're trying to help somebody in their spiritual life, you have to know what state of life they are in, whether they're married or single or a priest or sister, young or old. You have to know what their situation is before you can give good advice. You know, that's exactly what John the Baptist does in today's gospel. He's out baptizing and people come up to him and they ask that important question, "What should we do?" And he says to the tax collectors, he's very practical, he knows what their problem is, that taking more than what you're supposed to. And then soldiers come up to him and he says, "Quit extorting people. Be satisfied with your wages. Don't accuse anybody wrongly." You see, he knows their situation, he knows what they need in order to be holy, and he very simply challenges them to make the changes in their life. You know, it wouldn't make any sense to tell the mother of 5, you know, quit taking money as a tax collector. Doesn't fit in with her situation. And so as we come together here on this 3rd Sunday of Advent, and we prepare to celebrate the birth of Jesus in less than 2 weeks now, very simply, what would the Lord say to you? What would the Lord say to me if we were totally honest and we simply said, "Lord, what do I need to do in order to become holy, in order to be a saint, in order to be all that you have created me to be?" Very simply, he's going to know your situation, and he's going to very simply be honest with you and say something like this, "You know, you who are husbands, you need to spend more time with your wife and help around the house." I don't know, maybe something like that, you know? Or he may say very simply to doctors and nurses, you know, you have to see that person not as just a case, but as a... He may say to a teacher, you know, in today's world, there are a lot of students who are from broken families, and you have to be much more patient and kind. He may say to me as a priest, you know, Al, you need to be praying more often. You need to really have more zeal in your priesthood. You know, he's going to say something different to each and every one of us. And I think that if we're honest with ourselves, we know what the Lord's going to say to us. We know what our issues are. We know what our situation is in life. And we know what it is most likely. What the Lord will say to us when we say, Lord, what should I do? He may say, you really need to deal with that anger. You really need to forgive that person who you keep on refusing. You really need to mellow out and to take life a little bit more joyfully. He may say very simply, you have to stop worrying so much and trust more in me. He's going to say something like that to each and every one of us. And the Lord knows us. He knows our situations. He knows us through and through. And if we're honest with ourselves and ask that question, what should I do? Believe me, the Lord will be honest with us. He will challenge us, but he'll always do it with love and kindness and gentleness. What we celebrate on this third Sunday, Gaudete Sunday, the rose vestments compared to the penitential purple or violet, is very simply a reminder that we don't have to be afraid of God. That we should be filled with joy, that even despite all of our problems, our faults, our flaws, and our sinfulness, we are loved. That the Lord just simply wants to shower us with his love and his mercy and his grace. So as we come here today, let us just very simply be like the people of Israel, like those tax collectors, like those soldiers, and ask the Lord that very simple question. Lord, what do I need to do in order to become all that you have created me to be? And then for all of us, let us just be humble enough to hear the answer.